Can you tell us what's going to happen with the tax conversation in this meeting? Since I know there was an expression that we wanted to deal with this maybe after the budget is dealt with, but what will we actually talk about today? Will we create a recommendation on the tax law?
The reason I'm looking at you funny is because I'm trying to remember if it was pulled from the consent agenda or not. Thank you. I suppose we'll just relitigate the same conversation we had at PFC yet again. I still believe that we have to address this, but we should do it at the end of the budget.
I think in the recommendation in the actual report, it says something like council must come up with a recommendation on tax. I'm just saying, it's a decision today, if not a vote.
Well, there was a vote at the Priorities and Finance Committee that failed 6-1. There was another vote at the Priorities and Finance Committee that also failed 6-1. So I would be surprised if so many people have changed their minds and would like to do that in advance. We will do it, but we will likely do it at the end of the budget cycle, which is what I prefer, because I think we need to know how much money we're talking about before we start talking about the shift.
Can I ask you, a few weeks ago there was a request from the Grey Cup Committee for $500,000 from the city. You said, leave it with me. Can you provide an update?
It was left with me.
And?
Oh yeah, that.
Your determination is?
No, we were able to find the funding for the Grey Cup Festival through other means. So I'm very pleased about that, and I'm really looking forward to it. The Grey Cup arrives in Calgary tomorrow. There's a parade, and there's going to be just 4 or 5 days of great fun leading up to the game. I'm not sure who I'm supporting in the game. I'm not very pleased with my choices. But what I'm even more excited about is that my real team, the University of Calgary Dinos, are on their way to the Vanier Cup again, and I want to go, but I suppose since I'm hosting the Grey Cup, I probably need to be here. But they are going to make mincemeat of Montreal and bring the Vanier Cup back, and I can't wait to welcome them in council chambers with that cup. Not bad, huh?
Where did the $500,000 come from?
I don't know. I mean, I do know. Various things around some funds we have around special events, around some money we set aside for Tourism Calgary for special event funding, and so on.
And what does that money get used for?
I don't have it right off the top of my head, but I know it has to do with the various things around the Fan Village and the free events and the public events all around hosting the Grey Cup.
I know it hasn't come up yet today. What are some of the options for a low-income transit pass? So you can be discussing.
Yeah, so council will have a big decision to make next week around some of those options. The recommended option from administration is to bring up the low-income transit pass from $5 a month to about $18 a month, which is still a huge discount. But I'm not sure that I feel that we can take the most vulnerable people in our community and give them that $13 a month whack right away. That's more. That's actually much more. It's double, almost triple what the proposed tax increase is that council will almost certainly not support. So why would we support such a bigger whack on low-income people? And I'll be looking for other options to deal with that.
Well, we've also seen a couple motions come forward as urgent business, including part privatization of waste collection. Can you give us a bit of a preview you're thinking of that?
Well, you know, I'm a fan of managed competition. I've been talking about this for many years. I think that it keeps us honest, and I certainly don't mind doing a pilot project. I do not like the way this has come to council. Without any public consultation, without any opportunity for city workers to give us their opinion on the matter or to organize in favor of doing that. I don't think that's fair pool. And frankly, I think that the committee should look at this. We should invite the public in for their input. It has zero impact on the 2020 budget, so I have no idea why it's before us as urgent business today when we could have dealt with it after the budget in a much more thoughtful way. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I am saying that I don't like sneaking it in.
This has been looked at before, hasn't it?
It has been looked at before. The total savings that the city has estimated is in the range of $1 or $2 per household per year. So there's not a lot of money to be saved here. There are other reasons that you want to do managed competition. It just allows you to stay on top of new technology, figuring out better ways to do the job. I'm certainly not opposed to it. We've been working on it in other parts of what the city does for many, many years, but I really don't like this sort of, I got it at 6:45 a.m. this morning, and I don't like this sneaking in and stuff like this that is so consequential.
So if this is approved, what's the path forward then in terms of going
Well, the notice of motion is interesting. It doesn't ask to develop an RFP and to come back with council for a decision. It actually says execute the RFP. So if it's passed today, we're done. It just gets privatized, and council will never have an opportunity to talk about it again, regardless of what the savings are. I don't think so. Had the writer of the thing worked with me, I would have helped him write something that I could have supported that would have got us to the same goal eventually, but I certainly don't like the way it's been done.
What about the union saying that the studies have been done and Mayor John Tory in Toronto scrapped a proposal to go
Yep.
in that direction? Winnipeg's got thousands of complaints.
Well, you know, it's interesting to look at the other cities that have done this. I know that the industry has lobbied hard for this. But in Toronto, they do have managed competition. They have half and half. And they chose not to do the other half because they thought it was important to keep both sides honest. And I do know that in cities like Winnipeg, in some ways they've regretted their decision, and it's a very hard decision to get out of. Now, to be fair to the proponents of this, that's not what they're calling for. What they're calling for is a long pilot project. 6 or 7 years, I heard in the media, though it is not in the notice of motion, to actually look at a small portion of a portion of the work. So I think what I heard in the media is it's 25% of the black cart. That's not in the notice of motion, but I assume that's what it means. Up to 25%. So if that is the case, then it is actually an experiment. It's an interesting opportunity to gather data, but I want to make sure it's set up properly as an experiment and a way to gather data, and that's just not what I see in what's before us.
Craig Chandler says he's organizing a slate of candidates for the 2021 election.
Wow, I think that's the 11th time he's done that, and I think he succeeded ever in electing one candidate who denounced him immediately upon election. Good luck to him.
Why do you think Calgarians aren't keen on slates?
Calgarians understand that they want the best possible people to represent them at City Council, that they don't want party politics, that they don't want people to vote mindlessly because they're told to vote that way, but they actually want their city councilors to be thoughtful about what they are voting on. And so I think that we see that, you know, in every single council meeting, there is a vote split that has never before been seen. And I think that's cool. I think that's good. It makes my job way harder. I imagine if I had a purple party and I could just get whatever I wanted done, but I don't mind that. I think that going to council and not knowing what the results will be and making sure that there is debate and that people are listening to one another is actually pretty darn good government. And why we would want anyone to emulate question period at the legislature and the House of Commons, I don't think any citizen would want that.
Would you like to save time for
I might, sure,
anti-Semitism motion?
sure.
I haven't seen the updated version of this, so can you explain why council is looking at it?
Hate crimes in this country are on the rise. We're seeing an increase in Islamophobia and religious bigotry of all kinds. But we're also seeing a huge increase in anti-Semitism. And particularly when we think about the Holocaust, you know, I was just in Berlin, and I went to the Holocaust Memorial there. It was just an extraordinarily touching thing. And we have Holocaust survivors here in this city, and we have generations growing up that don't know about it. And I think it's important for council to condemn bigotry in all its forms, anti-Semitism being one of them. And I think it's important for us to commemorate the remembrance of that great loss of life in the Holocaust. So I'm really pleased that council is having this discussion. We have shown on this council that despite our differences in our arguments, when it comes to standing for the dignity of every person that shares this land, that's something that we stand united on. And I'm pleased to see so many members of council sign on to this, and hopefully that many members of council supporting it this afternoon.
Could you just repeat your remarks about sharing the call this morning?
I can try. You know, even when you know it's coming, it's really tough. And so yesterday, I lost a friend, and I lost someone who is a major inspiration to me and a mentor to me, but it's not about me, it's about the whole community. I met Sherry 10 years ago when I was invited to a coffee at Higher Ground Cafe in Kensington with people who were interested in a better Calgary. Little did I know that going to that coffee would pretty much change my life, that it would lead to the creation of Civic Camp, it would lead to a movement in Calgary of people who just wanted a better city, who bucked the conventional wisdom, who said city council isn't just for land developers, it's for everyone. And we need to pay attention, and we need to be able to move towards a better community. That's why I'm mayor. And it was because I met this crazy, bubbly, never say die woman who was just not going to let anything go. But it's not just about politics. It is about all the things that she just did every day to build community. She used to go and look at the owls on St. Patrick's Island near her home, and I'm going to call that Sherry's Grove from now on, where those owls came, because she loved that little bit of nature in our community. She built a box and put it on a stick and stuck it on her front lawn and filled it with books and said, take one or leave one, and created this incredible little free library movement here in the city. When I was first elected, I said, how do we take that great feeling that we had around the election of everyday people getting involved in their community and just keep doing it? And the first person I asked for help was Sherry. And with the Mayor's Committee on Civic Engagement, she came up with 3 things for Canada. Just asking every citizen to do 3 acts of community service every year. These little things make a huge difference. And all of us as everyday people are inspired sometimes by extraordinary people. And she was that. So if you want to honor Sherry, do your 3 things for Canada. Do your 3 acts of community service every single year, and just try to make life better in small and in big ways. So I'm super sad today. I've lost a very, very good friend. The city has lost a huge advocate. But ultimately, we are so much better because she was here, and I know that she knows that we can take it from here. Thank you.
Can I, do you mind if I ask one quick
sure.
question about public consultation?
Try to-
It's got to
Yes.
do with, it's got to do with public consultation and the speed limits.
Yes,
In-
yes,
in
yes,
the
yes,
i-
yes.
In the identified groups of interested stakeholders, there are only 2 on the list. Those being ethno-cultural communities and the business community. I don't understand how everybody who isn't bedridden isn't an affected and interested stakeholder.
I think that that's a great question, and I think that what they're saying is, listen, everybody is going to reach out to talk to us about speed limits. It's not going to be difficult to get people involved in that conversation, but they want to make a special point of reaching out to people that we don't always hear from, because you're right, it affects everybody. So let's make sure that we hear from all those folks as well. That said, I'm going to ask a question today, which is, why are we bothering? Because if council has made up their minds, I don't know if they have, or if they're not going to be swayed by public engagement, why are we spending a year talking about this? If there is a desire to do it, let's just do it. And if there's a desire not to do it, let's put it to rest. So that's the question that I'll be asking today.
So are you saying that at the end of today we may have a decision on whether this actually happens or not?
I think the odds of that are next to 0, but I will ask.
At the committee that something was added to just keep speed limits the same, would we move that contrary today?
No, it's okay. Because it basically is look at the whole suite of options. And I think one of the options is always don't do anything. So I think that's all right. But as I said, I'm really going to challenge my colleagues today to say, look, if you guys are ready to make a decision, if you've made up your mind, let's just make a decision. Rather than covering it up with with another year of work. You know, we're trying to get our city administration to focus and cut costs. So let's see what they have to say. I have pretty much 0 optimism that my point of view will be the one that prevails today.
Sorry, I just have one more question.
Sure.
You said there's a possibility that mowing green bus passes could be raised by $13. Is your council doing everything it can to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, so the challenge is, of course, that we had run out of provincial funding. So the province has come back and guaranteed provincial funding, which is great, but at a lower level than what we asked for, which leaves us with about a $6.5 million funding gap. So council has to either find $6.5 million or raise the fees, and that's a good debate that we'll have next week. All right, thank you.